Caddis Maximus here, this time with a review of the Harbor Freight Chief Mini Die Grinder. This is a 1/4 inch spindle tool and it's actually not too bad. I really like that Harbor Freight is trying to come out with heavier duty and more professional grade tools, and this Chief actually fits the bill. It is surprisingly small and quite powerful, and we'll do some testing and actually do a quick teardown to look at how they designed it inside. A pretty nice tool. This was $40. You were actually able to use a coupon on this, and it seems all these premium brands that Harbor Freight's replacing everything on the shelf with, the coupons don't work with. They have all these exclusions, and now it's just a little bit strange. Harbor Freight is now, what it is they're replacing a bunch of the tools with nicer ones that they don't offer discounts on. Used to be you could use a coupon on just about anything in the store, and now it's like, and it seems like half the store is not eligible for coupons anymore. This little thing is rated for 2.9 CFM at 25,000 RPM. Most air tools, that would be like a minimum, and you really want to run a bunch more or have a much higher volume than what is recommended by the tool. Because when you're running the tool, you do get pretty large air drops or air pressure drops. It uses a 1/4 inch MPT fitting, and I do recommend high flow fittings. My little demonstration won't have a high flow fitting, but I'll do a few tests of it with a 1 1/4 inch V wheel and a 1 inch grinding wheel and a 1/2 inch grinding wheel on a piece of steel, just to see how it runs. I have a tiny little compressor with a 10-gallon tank, but I'll be pretty judicious. I'm not going to do long involved grinds, but we'll just see how easy it bogs down against the various diameter wheels. Because somebody may say a grinder is just, an excellent performance grinder, but, if they're using it with a small 1/2 inch wheel, it's going to have more leverage. On something like this V wheel, when you're trying to get down in a groove, and being 1 1/4 inches can really sap a whole lot of power. Overall, the quality of this tool seems to be pretty nice. All metal. It has this little 2-piece adjustment here, and that's how they do the variable speed, which I think is kind of interesting. Let me get a light here. Here we go. So we can see inside here's the valve for the tool that opens and closes, but it's actually inside a little collar, and you can use this to turn that collar, and that's how you get the adjustable or the variable speed. You can see where it has sharp edges on there, so if you're really inclined, you could take it apart and just provide just a little bit of beveling to smooth out the airflow, and you'll get a little bit better control of the variable speed. But it's kind of a neat way they do it, and being all brass, it is pretty reliable. They have a tight fit on the O-rings. I wouldn't adjust this like all the time. Those O-rings undoubtedly will blow out pretty easily. The lever's pretty good. They have a really pretty strong spring for the safety catch, so sometimes it's a little hard to activate. I could see after this wears, this is a metal lever, so it'll wear an indent in the aluminum body, and then sometimes it'll get stuck. So that may be an issue for some people, and I did want to mention that. This one seems to be extra stiff. It does use just a finger-tight plastic retention collar, and that's the big disappointment. I scratched it there, if we can get the camera to focus on it, and I was surprised that it's not metal. I really see that becoming a potential issue. Come on now, that's like the outside edge. This is where it's always hitting and being set down and dropped. Should not be a plastic piece, and it was just finger tight. I was able just to unscrew it. So you'll probably want to use something like a little strap wrench or a little pair of pliers and just try to torque it down some, not break it because it is plastic. But it was loose. It was loose enough to where it would have rattled itself off. You can only imagine a die grinder at 25,000 RPM shooting apart, charged with 100 PSI air. That would be exciting. Another quick thing to mention, it comes with a couple of decent wrenches. It's an 11mm by 17mm on the collet. Fortunately, some of these die grinders, they have really narrow flats, and so you always lose these weird wrenches. Fortunately, they have enough space to use normal wrenches on both the collet and the spindle, so that was definitely a big bonus point there. Alright, let me get a little fitting in here, and then we'll give it a quick run. Since this is so easy to take apart with a finger screw, I'll quickly take it apart just so we can, at least the main part, so we can see how good the motor looks. And then I'll do a steel grinding test at the end. Alright, here we go. See how this thing sounds. Let me actually get a little torque on those. Now we have a wheel inside this. It's not too bad. It has a front exiting exhaust, although it's really narrow, so it kind of hits the back of the chuck and actually expands out this way, kind of like this, rather than having maybe some small holes around the ring, so it bypass the chuck and actually go past it and really help clean the work area. So even though they may advertise a front exhaust, it doesn't help that much. Alright, let's take a quick look inside and then we'll do a test. Okay, let's get this bit out of here. Let's see how... I didn't do any heavy grinding. It's brand new, but we'll see how bad. Some of these designs with the collets, the bits really just want to get jammed in there. Oh yeah, that releases quite nicely. Alright, let's see how easy it is to take this apart without... Well, there's our little ring. It is a pretty thick plastic ring, I'll admit that, but still pretty disappointing. Let me see if there's any markings. So it is just a ring over the retention piece that's in here, but nonetheless that ring is going to break off in no time, and then it's this edge right here that's getting beat into the screw threads. Definitely should have been metal. Let's take this, finish taking this apart. I got to find the right size wrench. I think that's a 28 and that's probably going to be a 22. Got that loose. That was 22 millimeter. They did use just a little bit of red thread locker in there, and I think that was smart, the amount that they chose. It's a tough decision. You could totally fill this up and it would never come loose, but these two flats on this aluminum here would never take the amount of torque that would be required to actually unthread it. Blow that off. Oh, I gotta get the collet out of there. A little one-piece collet. There's that, and then an air motor, and see if there's any alignment grooves. Yeah, there is an alignment to this motor. You want to make there's a vent on top, and that aligns on the top here. Even though there isn't any alignment grooves actually inside the case that I can see, you want to make sure that you get those lined up. It has an undercut, so if you got it in the incorrect position, I believe it would still technically work, but it probably wouldn't work quite as well as having those holes lined up. So it's an interesting design. The bearings are press fit onto the ends, as well as into these their outer housings, or guides I should say. So this is basically a sealed cartridge system for the vane motor. And you actually need to use a set of pullers to pull it apart, to take it apart. It's kind of interesting. So all the housing does is just help maintain the alignment of the bearings themselves with the motor, or I should say with the exterior of the motor itself. So we got our air coming in there, and then it exhausts through there, and then goes past these vanes out through the front. We have a second exhaust port right there. Okay, let's get this back together and see how it grinds some steel. Alright, let's do a little test. We're going to start off with a 1/2-inch grinding wheel. Always make sure when you're grinding to wear ear protection, as well as eye protection. And I'm also going to put right down here in the corner of the screen a little pressure gauge. I have a grossly insufficient air compressor. I'm using standard flow 1/4-inch fittings, 1.5 CFM against a 10-gallon tank. So I'll give you an idea of what performance you can expect depending on the flow rate and size of your compressor and the size of the air tank. This will be some short little tests here. So with a 1/2-inch, even on my little compressor, I was actually, this is a piece of shafting that came out of a gearbox. This is going to be some kind of hardened alloy steel, and it actually just, no problem. That was actually surprising for the little grinder. Here we are with a 1-inch diameter wheel, up from a 1/2 inch. When you double the diameter, the distance across, you triple, actually 3.14 times by pi, the distance around. So to give you an idea, we're putting significantly more load on the grinder because it has less leverage against the wheel. Still quite not too bad. I mean, really, you could easily use this on a good compressor and airflow. You could easily use this for porting jobs, manifold jobs, all that kind of stuff. I don't even think I'm going to do the test with the last wheel because I'm sure it'll do just fine. That was actually quite impressive. I'm pretty surprised by it. The bearings inside, as we saw earlier, are a little bit small, so at least, you know, with a little gear puller, you can yank them apart and easily replace the 2-ball bearings that are in it. And their size, they're going to be cheap. I mean, it'll cost you $5 or less to replace the bearings. This is the type of tool, let me zoom out a little bit here. This is exactly the type of tool that you would want to get silicon nitride ceramic ball bearings for. It would be like 20 or 30 bucks for the 2 little bearings, and those things would be the ultimate. They would last until the vanes completely wore out and the thing didn't turn anymore. Maybe I'll do a project on that at some point in the future here. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.